Hey guys, I wanted to make a video showing the from beginning to end of designing your own part using the Monoprice Select Mini. The reason why I wanted to do this video is there are tens of thousands of free downloadable objects off of Thingiverse, and there's many other websites out there. But what I wanted to do today is actually take you through loading Filament, and we're going to go through. We're going to kind of take some measurements, make our own thing. And we will print it out and you can see the end results and what we can use it for. It's going to be a very simple project, but it's one of those things where really when you order one of these, the directions take you through setting it up, printing your first test part, but it really doesn't take you through if you want to make your own different things. And that's where I think the functionality of these devices really become key. So first thing we're going to do is I am going to show you the machine, and this one is pretty much stock. There is a couple little changes on it, but not a lot. I did print out my own knob, which I did download from Thingiverse. This is a Build Tack. FlashForge makes their own. It's much cheaper than the regular Build Tack that you'd buy on Amazon. I believe they sell like a 6-pack for like $20. And the nice thing is about the FlashForge ones are that you can take these sheets, cut them in half, so you really get 10, 12, I think it's 5, might be 6 in a pack, so you'd get between 10 and 12 build surfaces. The tape works fine. I find that it works probably 80% of the time, but there are times where it seems like I'll come down and a part will just be loose and you'll have a bird's nest on here, and I have a whole lot more luck. I would say 99% of the time that this Build Tack knockoff works. So the only other mods are I cut a little piece of a towel to stick under the heated bed because it seems to help it maintain the temperature a little bit better. In the beginning I was a little worried that might have a little fire or something like that, where you might want to get maybe some material that would be fireproof that would insulate the back side of this, but this seems to be working. I've printed probably well over 200 hours worth of projects, and I've had the bed temperature up to 60 C, I think is where the highest that I've ran this at. The only other thing that I have modified on this would be the extruder. This whole assembly had cracked at one time and I had replaced it. I ordered this kit on Amazon. I want to say it was probably $15 or something along those lines, but it was pretty easy to do. I do like it because it gives you a way to be able to guide the filament in, and I was able to snap this right in, and it's a little bit more adjustable. You can really set your tension on your filament here, and it's a little bit better because I was getting some skipping and having some issues, and I think that's why we're having these issues early on with some of the prints. I know there's some people out there that have commented that they've had issues with their Monoprice Mini, with the nozzle jams and all kinds of things. Honestly, you're going to get that with every printer out there. The big thing is store your filament in a nice clean place, and I'll show you one of the little modifications that I made to try to keep some of the dirt from being pulled through and getting jammed in the nozzle. If the nozzle does become jammed, it's really not that difficult to be able to get a small socket in under here, take this nozzle out, and honestly I found the best way to clean these nozzles out is with a little torch. Heat them up, get them hot. You don't have to get it glowing red, but get it hot. The filament will pop and bubble and come out. And at that point you can kind of just take a toothpick or something like that, and you can dig any other garbage out and kind of clean it up a little bit and make sure that you don't have anything in it. When you do load filament, the filament should come out very nice and smooth in a straight line. If you see the filament coming out and it kind of takes a turn coming straight out of the nozzle, that is a good indication you still have a piece of dirt in there. So as long as when you're loading your filament and it comes out nice and smooth, then you'll be able to see quickly whether you have a clogged nozzle or not. And at that point, as long as you have good temperatures here on your hot end and you keep everything good and clean, you shouldn't have any problems. So we're going to go through, and I'm going to turn this one on, and we'll let it power up, and I'm going to drop the camera down. We're going to come in a little bit, and we can take a look at going through and loading filament on this for the first time. Sorry, there's a glare here. Let me turn this light off. Maybe that'll help with the glare. Yeah, it really helped. So first thing, this is your basic menu. When you power the unit on, this is what you're going to see. And we're going to go over here and to temperature, and I'm going to push the knob down. And this is your temperature screen. This is your extruder temperature, your platform or build plate temperature, and this is going to ask you to start or preheat or exit. This is not a touch screen, so right from the beginning, know that it's not a touch screen. The menus are selected by rotating this knob. You can see there's a little black outline that cycles through the different menu items here. So the first thing I want to do, I just want to load filament into this. So what I'm going to do is roll this till I get the black bar around the extruder. I'm going to click on it, and I'm loading a PLA filament, and I know it has a temperature range of around 180 to 210, but I'm going to run up about 215 to load. And you just click it again, and you'll see it goes right into the preheat, and it will update it as it heats up. And once we get to 215C, we'll come back and I'll start loading the filament. Okay, I'm going to show you something that I had made here. I cut a little piece of towel here, and what I do is I fold it over, and then I kind of roll it around the filament, and once I have it rolled fairly decent and tight around the filament, I use these spring paper clips, and I put it around the filament like that to just kind of draw it tight. I don't want it to slide down on its own. I want it to be able to drag fairly free on the filament, but this works really good for keeping dust from going through the hot end and building up. So now we have the extruder hot end is at 215C. So I am going to feed the filament in, and what I like to do is, if you just squeeze it here, you can usually feed it straight through with the original style. With the setup that I have, I like to go into the menu and use the filament stepper to feed it in. So I will take you through here quick and how I do it. So basically, once you have it preheating, you'll see here on your temperature screen that we're at around 213C. I have it set for 215. It will get up there, but it takes it a while to get there. Then I cycle through down to exit, and then I go into move, and I go over to the E extruder, and I click it, and then I gently feed it in, and I rotate the knob back slowly. And as I do that, what it's doing is it is slowly stepping through and feeding the filament through into the hot end. Once I know that I'm through pressing against the extruder here, the extruder stepper, and I can see that the filament has already started into this PTFE tubing here, then I'll just start really spinning the knob here and feeding it through. And you can see that this thing's dragging on here, kind of cleaning any dust that might stick to it. The plastic filament, if it becomes statically charged for any reason whatsoever, what will happen is you'll just have little pieces of dust sticking to it from the air. It'll just stick to it, and it'll be drugged through all the way down into your hot end. So I'm going to continue turning this knob, and I'm going to drop the camera down, and we'll take a look at it as it first starts to come out of the extruder. Okay, so now we can see the hot end here, and I am going to continue rotating the knob and slowly adding the filament, and it's going through the PTFE tube. It's going to come all the way down. To feed it, you're actually turning the knob counterclockwise. And there you go. You can see we got a little bit of filament that just squirted out there. So I'm going to give it a nice little turn here, and we're going to see that that filament's coming out straight. Now it is hitting the platform here and kind of pushing it off. But if you were having a blocked nozzle issue, you would see that filament, it almost squirts out to the side and comes down. So, but right now it looks like we got a nice clean nozzle. We have filament loaded. So I'm going to exit out of the menu, and then I am going to basically, easiest thing you could do is probably just switch the unit off, which I do. It's probably not the best, but it is the easiest. I switch it off and turn it back on, and we're ready to print at this point. Okay, so now I want to kind of take you through the design process. What I have here is what I would consider a fairly cheap pair of calipers. You can buy these on Amazon for like 20-30 bucks. You can get smaller ones that are much cheaper, but these are fairly decent. They have a large, bright display. You can cycle between millimeters and inches pretty easy, which I like. Because most of your designing software, things are just easier in millimeters. I have grown up using, I was a machinist early in life, so thousands of an inch is quite, I'm comfortable, but the more I use the metric system, honestly, I love everything about the metric system. I think the temperature is horrible, but everything else about the metric system is fantastic. So here's just a basic set of calipers. Our project is going to be designing a way to store this in a little pocket, so to speak, on a shelf or attach it to a wall. So what I'd like to do is make something so that I can bring this in and drop it into a pocket and have it attached to the wall and plug it in and charge it. That way I know where it's at all the time. It's not laying on a desk or all over the place. So when I start to design something, I kind of get an idea of what I want it to do. And then from there, I come in and start taking some rough measurements. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure the overall width of this, and we're at 85.81. So when you're printing in different plastics, remember plastics shrink. Different plastics shrink at different rates. ABS, I've found for the most part, shrink a lot more than PLA. And PETG shrinks not quite as much, but it does. All plastics will shrink, so I want this to kind of be a loose fit. So I'm going to run this out to about, I would say 86 millimeters will give us a nice, even with a little bit of shrinkage, I'm going to be printing in PLA. If you want to be a little safer, you could say 86.5 millimeters, and that'll give you a good bit of slop to go in there. So once we get up to the computer and we start going through, and I'll show you a very simple and free way to design your own parts, and at that point we'll start figuring out our measurements. So now we're going to go somewhere around 86 to 86.5 millimeters. Height wise, I would like to have the indicator lights so that you can see them while it's charging, and I am going to make it somewhere in the neighborhood of 73 to maybe 74 millimeters. And the thickness on this device, because it has these like little rubber feet here, I'm going to go off of that thickness, so that way we're like right around 24 millimeters there. So kind of gives us the basic idea of what we're going to do, and we're going to go up, we're going to start using a program called tinkercad, and I will show you it's really a matter of dragging things on, and we will go through, drag all the objects on, build it how we want, and when we're all done, I'm going to show you how to export it. We're going to take that file and install it into a slicing software, and then at that point we will come down, load it into the printer and print it out, and you can see the finished product.
Comment and subscribe.
Thank you very much.